My name is David Hackett. I'm president of the Harpswell Historical Society. I am, in this day and age, very much a person of a place. My ancestors go back very far in this town. As a historian, I'm constantly running across things about the fishing industry over a period of years. The first Native Americans came here, I think, for hunting and fishing. There are some shell middens here in town that we have some artifacts out of. Down at Graveyard Point, we have a piece of pottery that is approximately 2,000 years old, and I'm sure fish was cooked in that. There were a lot of fish here in those times, I mean a very lot of fish. And in a lot of red paint people burial sites, there have been a number of swordfish bones. The currents were different, the temperatures were different, and swordfish apparently were fairly close to the shore. Swordfish are way out in the middle of the ocean now. Very few swordfish caught around here.
What do you think caused that?
Well, change in climate, certainly. Not necessarily the climate change that we are experiencing now. I think a lot of that has to do with polar ice caps, the temperatures fluctuating. The salinity of the ocean has a lot to do with it too, I think. There's no salt smelt of the air at all. The types of fishing evolve over time. The first Europeans here would have been pretty much catching fish to salt. They would have been hand-lined. Hand-line is a length of string with a hook on the end of it. You jig, you bait it, you bait the hook, you put it down at the bottom, you pull it up off the bottom a foot or two, and you jig it. You slowly bounce it up and down. And it wasn't anything that was considered a fresh fish market in those times. Later on, lobsters became the most important fishery in this town. My grandfather, my mother's father, was a lobster fisherman, and he used to sell lobsters for a penny apiece. Lobster stew is one of the most wonderful foods in the whole world. It was not considered to be a delicacy like it is today.
You mentioned you were a lobsterman at the age of 8? Or a
No, I wouldn't go lobstering at 8. I was a sea moss raker at 8. And when it's dried, it's used for a thickening agent for toothpaste and ice cream and cosmetics. It was a big industry for a long time here. The guys would come in with boats, and they'd have a rake that was, actually we have one out in the back. The ones that we used were like a garden rake. Mossing, I think, lasted from 1930s till the 1980s. Shrimp are not very rugged creatures, and I think the way that they're netted kills off most of the juveniles in the process. In the early 70s, it was a huge industry in the Maine coast, and last year there was no season. I'm a boat builder, and I used to work for a man named Royal Lowell. We'd be cleaning up, joking with each other then. Royal would say to me every time, he'd say, "Davey, we'll be building boats," and they weren't boats, they were bots. That's the way they pronounce it down east. As long as there's fish in the ocean. And he'd laugh like that was the funniest thing in the world. And that was 35 years ago. And it's a whole different world now. If you go anywhere along this coast and go to a tidal pool, you'll find periwinkles, just like I did when I was a kid. But that's about it. There's no flounders, there's no little lobsters, there's no rock crabs. Occasionally you do find a small green crab, but it's very different.